Welcome back, riders. Today is number 10 of 25 days of coasters. As I said yesterday, we have back-to-back new for 2023 roller coasters. Yesterday was the American representative, at least that I've ridden, and today is the European representative. I rode Pantheon for the first time as well this year, and it just missed the cut and is my number 29 roller coaster. And thankfully, I rode that before today's coaster, which can be seen as like Pantheon 2.0, Pantheon upgraded, whatever. This easily made the cut, obviously, at number 10. That coaster is Toutatis at Parc Astérix. As always, we will start with the background and stats. And let's get the language barrier out of the way. I have heard Toutatis and I've heard Toutatis. I have heard Parc Astérix and I've also heard Parc Astérix. I'm not sure which is right. The correct way is probably the way I will continue or not continue to say because I don't speak French. My French is very bad. Parc Astérix, as I will say going forward, is France's premier amusement park, sitting just north of Paris in a town I don't even want to try to pronounce, but it's not far at all from the Paris airport, only like 15-20 minutes. Toutatis is a multi-launch shuttle coaster built by Intamin. Like I stated, it opened this year. It stands 167.3 feet tall, reaches a top speed of 66.5 miles an hour, and it has a whopping 101 degree drop, and there's also 3 inversions thrown there as well. Toutatis has 4 launches in total. 3 of them are part of a swing launch sequence that I will go further in depth about. This means that Toutatis goes both forwards and backwards. Toutatis has 3,526.9 feet of physical track, but because you go over some of the same track multiple times with the switch track and the swing launch sequence, you actually traverse a total of 4,465.22, oddly specific, feet of track in total. That's a pretty cool stat, if you ask me. Most parks don't say, for coasters you go both forwards and backwards, how much you actually traverse. So I found that on the roller coaster database. So I thought that was a really cool stat. And obviously, even 3,500 feet of tracks, slightly above average, but just shy of 4,500 is like exceptional. And I was able to get 2 rides, just 2, unfortunately, but I loved them in late June this year. Before I get to the ride itself, I want to touch on the theming. Toutatis has some pretty good theming, which I will expand on, but I do just want to point out a disclaimer that I don't really understand it. The story of the theming was not something that I was able to pick on as a dumb American that only knows one language and just a little Spanish, un poco. Um, I don't want to say it's entirely a language thing. I looked on Parc Asterix's website before making this video to see what it said, like what it had to say about the theming or the story. And it does talk about the theming in English, so I could read it, but even then I'm like still not following it, comprehending it. So I did try, but you don't need to know French or be French to appreciate how the theming looks. Something I didn't know about coming into riding Toutatis, but the first thing I noticed approaching the ride was how Toutatis was built around the park's bobsled coaster Trace du Hora. Again, sorry, bad French. At least I tried that one. This massive bobsled coaster is huge in its own right, but it's really cool to see how they were able to weave in Toutatis within the bobsled coaster they have. Once you get into the ride proper, you're greeted with a ginormous structure of, I don't really know exactly what this is pictured here, but it does look cool. It is most certainly cool. Don't get me wrong. I really liked it. I just don't know what it is. Behind the statue, you can see the station. It's like a huge hut, like built into the ground, made out of boulders with moss, grass growing on it. It's very cool, and I've never seen anything like it as far as I can remember. The whole area is littered with these huge boulders. You will find them in the station and around like the launch sequences. A lot of them have engravings in them, like the picture here. Some of them even have lights in them that can be green and or blue and they like change too. It's really cool. The sign for this ride is also very cool. It is composed of, guess what? two huge boulders with one of them having Toutatis engraved into it. It's really cool. Most of the queue is outside, and there's nothing extremely special in terms of theming out there. The area looks super pretty. It's upkept. There's some good foliage and stuff. And they do have like these wooden signs like this picture here. They have these kind of skittered about with French on them. So I don't know what they say, but they still look cool. But the real highlight of the queue is being like within the area of Toutatis. You get some awesome views of the top hat and the last portion of the ride, which is pictured here. You get pretty close to it. It's pretty shocking and definitely really fun to watch the ride going as we wait in line. Eventually, you will make it to the aforementioned Boulder Hut station. On every dispatch, some kind of audio goes off that kind of sounds like some kind of like magic sound effect. It's cool. On dispatch, there's also a bunch of boulders that light up in the blue and or green. They change colors right above you, and they got like, I think this is the same person at the statue. I don't know what it is, but it looks. I'm just trying to say I don't understand what all this is, but it looks very cool. It's nicely done, and it's pleasing to the eye. It's entertaining for sure. So now we will move on to the ride proper. Out of the station, you hit a small drop before you engage in the first launch. The first launch is actually a decent one. It's a good one. At least in terms of like a smaller launch that's not the main focus of a ride, this is a pretty good one. It's got a little more bite, especially compared to like a mock launch. This leads to a quick turn to the right before giving you some laterals, and then you enter the ride's first inversion. I don't even know what this inversion is called, if it's got a name specifically. It's essentially what would happen if an overbanked turn and a zero G stall had a baby. It produces some awesome hang time. And you know I love my hang time. You hit a slower turn to the right after that eventually leads to a slow outer bank turn to the right, followed by another outer bank turn to the left. You're going a little too slow to like be ejected from your seat or anything that extreme, but I feel like there is a faint feeling that you're leaving your seat, and I find it fun. The next part of the ride is the swing launch sequence, and everything up until this point, I really enjoyed. I like it. Now you begin the swing launch, and this is definitely by far the best one I've been on, although I will admit I have not been on many, at least yet, because these are all the rage right now. I can only think of Pantheon and like Icebreaker that come to mind off the top of my head right now. Anyways, that's not the purpose of this video. Back to Toutatis. The swing launch has two airtime hills, so in short, what essentially happens is you get 3 moments of airtime going forwards, 2 moments airtime going backwards, and 2 moments of weightlessness when your train comes back down to earth when it switches direction. This is all while launching forwards, then backwards, and then forwards again. This is all heavenly. The airtime is almost entirely ejector, which is awesome, especially backwards. Backwards airtime or sideways airtime is just awesome. The weightlessness is also cool, especially the back spike. And then the launches are pretty powerful, and they got some good bite themselves too. So definitely 2 huge thumbs up for me. After the last launch forwards, you will move onto the rest of the layout, which is very much feels like a blitz. You first hit the top hat. You finally go over it this time. The exit of the top hat has the 101-degree drop, but it is trimmed a fair bit. So I wouldn't say it's an elite drop, but it's still very much enjoyable and a good one. Then Intamin puts on an absolute masterclass in a high-paced layout. You hit a 0G stall, which gives some hang time, although it's not super crazy. RMC does better stalls still. There's a standard airtime hill, which gives some awesome sustained ejector. There is a wave turn, which admittedly Intamin needs some work on because each one I've been on is inferior to the RMC wave turn, but that's a story for another day, I guess, kind of. It's still a good moment, probably the weakest part of the ride, but if a wave turn's the weakest part of any ride, then you're doing something right. There's also a high-speed barrel roll over the theming. I showed a couple pictures back that kind of acts like a hand chopper if you got your arms out, so that's pretty cool. And the inversion is taken with some really good speed too. That inversion is towards the end. After that, you actually end the ride on a double up, giving some pretty good airtime. They're more abrupt, not sustained moments, but still very enjoyable. Throughout the layout between the elements I listed off, there's these small little turns that They somehow produce airtime and lateral kinks. Intamin did a fantastic job with Toutatis. Now I'm going back on how I'm saying it. So that's all I've got for today. I'm sure many of my viewers have not been on this one, at least yet. If you have, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't, does it look like an elite coaster to you? Let me know in the comments below. As always, there will be a link in the description to a review by Canopy Coaster that will be more in-depth with better footage. So check that out if you want. Hope to see you all tomorrow. Push down, pull up, exit to the right. Hope you enjoyed the video, and go have your greatest day yet. Choo choo, bye.